everyone. Welcome to the Curriculum Committee meeting, the first of the year of 25-26. We apologize for the delay. We participated in a fire drill. All went well. Everyone is safe. So we are looking forward to this introductory discussion of the year ahead. But I first want to welcome my committee members, Sandra Alvarez and Rachel Gilliar, and Dr. Posse, and our liaison, Dr. Feeney. Welcome to community members and to other staff that have joined us as well. We are looking forward to the plans of the year. And please, Dr. Feeney. Oh, thank you.
Good call.
Thank you for fixing our image.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to give an overview of sort of the year ahead, some of the major items we're working on in the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. I want to point out I've got my colleagues. Ms. Diaz is here. She's the Director of Elementary Curriculum. Dr. Borcella is here. She's our Administrator for Literacy. And we have Ms. Zarate here, who's our Director of ENL. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff we're going to present. This is stuff we've seen because we have been consistently working on some core instructional, pedagogical, and curricular issues over the last 3-4 years. And you'll see the progression as we go on. I'm going to switch presentation. So now they're seeing the presentation. People are safe. Our overall goal, of course, in the department, is what we want to do. We want to make sure that every student thrives academically and certainly feels a sense of belonging. That's the overall goal. We do that with our resources, our support strategies, inclusivity, and we'll have thriving students. I mentioned my colleagues, Dr. Borcella, Ms. Diaz, and Ms. Zarate. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the office. These are the major tasks covered by each of these individuals. There's a lot of other things that come up, not necessarily connected to them individually that we cover, including certainly the title grants, all the stuff related to our pre-K program, our after care program with our new provider right at school, certainly the planning, implementation of all of our PD days and our superintendent's conference days, among many other things. This is sort of the big picture of what we've been working on over the last several years, just a shift in culture. A focus on data literacy. I think that our teachers are wonderful. They do a terrific job. They look at the whole student. Data literacy and being able to look at student data, it's an important part of working with the whole student, the whole child, if you will. So being able to use the data provided to improve our instruction for all students, to provide the necessary support. So that data literacy is a big piece of what we're doing. Curricular consistency, we've been tackling that. That's been a theme people have heard me speak about in almost all of my presentations. Instructional strategies, that's the big item. Our office is the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. The most important piece there is instructional strategies and helping our teachers develop the strategies to support all of our students, provide differentiated instruction, and when we get to some of the other pieces, certainly for that classroom, that tier 1 support for all students in the classroom is critical. And the community belonging, certainly not exclusive to our department. This is what we want all of our students to feel. But a lot of our work to get feedback from students, parents, teachers, is to make sure there's a good, strong sense of community. The big pieces we're talking about, right? There's been a lot of discussion about our mathematics program since I arrived here. We are entering year 2 of the implementation of a new K2, K6 mathematics program. We'll continue providing curriculum, professional development. This first year, later on, we're going to look next presentation, next month, we're going to look at some of the results that we got through iReady and some of the growth our students had. But this is, we had a terrifically successful year with our first year of implementation. The results were fantastic. Our K6 teachers were incredible, especially those elementary teachers who cover and provide, have to cover all curricular areas. We turned them into brand new mathematics teachers last year, and they rose to the occasion. It wasn't easy, but the teachers were incredible. We provided robust professional development with our dedicated professional developer, Dana. And she also worked closely with our math specialists to enhance our own personnel, our own teachers' ability to support their colleagues. A key person in the implementation of our first year of iReady, of course, was, and I've spoken about this, Ms. Diaz, who served as the primary liaison between the iReady folks, our teachers, our math specialists, and help plan out. So we had a great first year. But the implementation, right? It takes several years to really get up to speed. The work this year, we're going to continue to support teachers. They've got to become more comfortable both with the platform and the incredible number of resources available. We will still have professional development. It will not be at the scale we had last year, but we're still, I believe, up to 32 professional development sessions. There are 3 main blocks over the course of the year. I'll just give you a little peek as to what the month of September and October look like. This is our calendar. And it's focused, it's going to be building focused, building level focused, and the focus will be on instructional strategies to support small group instruction and tier 1 instruction. So we're very excited about this. There's calmness, the teachers are feeling more confident having gone through year 1, and I think there's an appreciation for the support we provided last year, and we should have the same specialist from Curriculum Associates, Dana, providing support for this year. So they know her, she knows the teacher, she's excited to work with us. Elementary literacy is a huge piece. Clearly K-12 literacy is important. Right now, our focus has been on that foundational piece. At the end of last year, Dr. Borcella, Ms. Diaz presented a comprehensive overview of our sort of literacy plan. This is going to continue to be an emphasis on what we're doing. This is the foundation of what our students need, right? If they don't have literacy, if they don't have numeracy, they're going to struggle in their core academic areas. So having a strong elementary literacy program is critical. Last several years, I've discussed lots of resources have been provided, a variety of resources, different things, all to support a strong foundation, all based on the science of reading, all based on best practices. We've provided professional development. New York State released wonderful literacy briefs 2 years ago. We've done professional development on that. We've had a reading subcommittee we'll learn a little more about further on down in this presentation. That was formed. Initially it was formed to explore just K2. It was expanded eventually to look at K5 and have, just as we have a consistent mathematics program in all our elementary schools now, we will have a consistent literacy, reading, and literacy program in our elementary schools. So we've talked about that. That's been a goal. We had a great, I think we talked about this last spring, collaboration with teachers, administrators, participating in a literacy think tank, which helped us with a submission of the New York State literacy attestation, which was new last year, where we had to go through at all of our early grade levels and make sure we were, and talk about where our district was in terms of reaching the primary 6 benchmarks for best practices in literacy instruction. And that's an alignment, that's a New York State Educational Law, 818, which we talked about last year as well. So that's what's been happening over the last 3 years. For this year, we're entering year 2 of this 3-year plan to get to the selection of a common program across all 5 elementary schools. We're going to have professional development. It starts on Conference Day, which is next month, on these 6 pillars of literacy instruction. This year, we do have every elementary school within the school at least, and sometimes it seems these are small steps, but these are important steps, and they're changes and shifts for Port Washington. But we will have, every elementary school is going to be teaching a consistent K-2 phonics and phonemic awareness program. They may be different from school to school, but within the school, they're consistent. That was not the case in the past. You might have one approach at one grade level or one class in one of the elementary schools. In the same elementary school, you have a different approach the next year or even in the classroom next door. So we're excited we have that sort of consistent level. That's going to serve as an important foundation for getting a common K-5 program across the board. So teachers, some schools have already had it for a year or 2, but now all 5 will have that common K-2. Once again, our goal is by the end of, not this year, but next year, we will have selected a program to implement in the 26-27 school year. RTI, we had a presentation on that last year. There was a lot of work with the RTI subcommittee. RTI, response to intervention, it's been around for a long time. It is the academic component of a term referred to as MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. That huge term, that umbrella term, MTSS, has RTI as well as a SEL, a social emotional learning piece. Our goal is to have a robust, comprehensive MTSS program in place in this district that incorporates both the academic situations as well as the SEL pieces. So last year, through intense collaborative work with our RTI subcommittee, we adopted a new plan in January 2025, clarifying the expectations for the criteria at each tier. We've talked about Tier 1, which is really full class instruction. We've talked about Tier 2, which really should target approximately about 20% of the kids. We've talked about Tier 3, which is more intense remediation. Tier 1, Tier 2 instruction, by and large, can be done in the classroom setting. Tier 2 is accomplished through small group instruction. You give kids what they need in that moment, without needing to pull them out for services. Tier 3, they typically need more intensive services. Those tend to be pull-out services with a high degree, but there are criteria for each of those. We've solidified the criteria. We're doing some PD on the criteria, clarifying the expectations, and making sure our teachers have the resources needed to implement a strong RTI program across all schools. So continuing with that, right, that's clarifying the multiple measures. This is the work we're going to be doing this year. I spoke about the PD to make sure everyone understands the framework and the kinds of data that can be used as part of the intervention and the importance of tracking it. And eventually we're looking into what we call data dashboards that provide a snapshot overview for the teacher, the principal, the director, whatever it might be, for all of the important facets as we've determined, both academic as well as social emotional. It could be attendance, it could be latenesses, discipline issues, getting that all framed in one data dashboard. That's part of where we're heading as well. E&L, this is crucial. We've looking to make sure that there's certainly an alignment of our E&L instruction with what's happening in our general classroom setting, especially from a curricular point of view. Some of the work we've done over the last few years, that increased collaboration, certainly during our superintendent's conference days, as well as the Wednesday meetings we have for professional development, and just the day-to-day interactions. We have provided professional development, brought in outside experts on teaching ELL students in the regular classroom. We've had specific instruction on trauma-informed instruction, providing professional development on how to address students who can come from backgrounds that are difficult sometimes for us to understand. Certainly we're looking and making sure that we are paying attention to the accountability measures for E&L students for New York State, and we're excited for this collaboration with our building principals to support more of a push-in model for our E&L students, so that those students that need some of the higher level support, but they still need support as dictated by the state, that they can have that support through a push-in rather than being pulled out of the classroom. In the past, a lot of our E&L students typically were just being pulled out, so they'd be missing the regular classroom instruction and missing the social aspect of being in that class, and that just struggled. It made it harder for them to, at times, remain part and stay part of the integrate themselves into the learning and the social aspect of the classroom. So being able to push in is a great way to deliver those services. And we had, instructional data warehouse. You've heard me speak about IDW. It's where all of our reports are to see how our kids are doing, where their weak points are. Our E&L teachers, that was a big part of March's superintendent's conference day, if I recall, where all of the E&L teachers, K-12, were trained in the data warehouse, and then being able to use that and get the reports they need to help their kids. So as we look for this year, certainly the delivery of those push-in E&L services at the elementary level, that's going to be an important part of what we're doing. We're very excited to see how that works. Expanding the professional development for our E&L teachers, our K2 E&L teachers, those pull-out services, those students that do need pull-out services, they're going to be using the same materials that the classroom teachers are using. That has not necessarily been the case. So at least if they have to get pulled out, and some kids do need to get pulled out, we still have the same materials for the delivery of those services. We're piloting some instructional tools to support our E&L students, and as always, making sure that we strengthen the family engagement opportunities. We've had some wonderful opportunities for our community over the last few years, and looking at how to make them better and reach more families is an important part of what we're going to do. Those sort of the big picture, big items. There's clearly a lot more happening. We've got some ongoing work. Certainly our portrait of a graduate. You've heard me speak about that. That remains our North Star. I think we need to work, and I think we will see some more work, certainly at the high school level. Our elementary schools and our middle school did a terrific job over the last several years, taking that portrait of graduate and breaking it down, right? So we had a portrait of a fifth grader and a portrait of an eighth grader. What does that mean at those levels? And we're going to be doing the same thing at the high school level. You know, what exactly do these, you know, different medallions look like? Ruler continues to be an important part of our elementary experience for our students. Clearly, Sousa remains a leader in the Ruler initiative, but the other schools have rolled it out. We've had training for all of our schools. We've brought in new team members over the last few years. That will continue to be expanded. Restorative practices, we've had a lot of people trained. Last year we trained an additional 70 people, so we've had well over 100 people trained in restorative practices. Every staff member has had a restorative experience, and that's part of our superintendent's conference day. Staff members, teachers have had 2 circles, and even our paras have had at least 1. And we'll continue to expand that and support teachers who are willing to use it and encourage them as we get to using it more for conflict resolution, not just community building, which has been an important part of what we've done, certainly with some of our initial ones. Climate survey, that will continue as we communicate out. We've discussed moving it up a little earlier, a little sooner, so we can get the results and use them to help in our budget process. And you know, we started early on with training on AI. Generative AI is a powerful tool in the schools. We have now a tool, Accessible Magic School, for all teachers to really help with their lesson planning, to help with their personalization of the instructional delivery, and help reach students. We're going to continue with that, and we're going to do the PD on that. We're going to help teachers do that, and we've got professional development, so by either department or whatever it might be, teachers can see how this can really be used to improve their instruction. It's here. If we are teaching the same way now that we taught 5 years ago, it's not going to work. The kids are using AI, they know all about it. We can't stop that. So we've got to find a way to provide instruction that can't just, you know, whatever, give lessons or homework that can't just be completed with a quick prompt in an AI bot, but does force students to think, reflect, and use, you know, that muscle up there, not just their fingers. It is impossible to talk about the curriculum work and our professional development work without talking about our PGCD, the Professional Growth and Curriculum Development Committee. That has been a district partner since 1969, that contract, the 69-71 contract, is when this committee was formed. And it really created a process where teachers and administrators, it's not just the committee of teachers, but it's teachers and administrators in a committee working together on any issue related to professional development or curriculum. So, you know, it just, even the things I have discussed prior to this, it's interwoven with the work of PGCD. So it creates, you know, and I've been honest about this, like the adoption of our mathematics program. There are districts where, you know, somebody with a fancy title can come in, snap a finger, and all of a sudden you've changed your math curriculum. That's not Port Washington. It was a 2.5-year process to adopt a new mathematics curriculum. It's a long process, but the benefit is teachers became deeply invested in the program that was selected. Even those teachers who maybe preferred another program, they saw the thoroughness, they saw their colleagues, their administrators working, and they respect the process, and that created buy-in. So when we got to the point where, hey, the selection of this went through PGCD, you will use it. We get a lot more buy-in and a lot more compliance in terms of, yes, we have to use these curriculum materials. So I was an important part of the success of the implementation of our mathematics program, and we expect the same sort of outcome with our eventual literacy reading program. It can be frustrating to have that 2-3 year process to get there, but once we get there, it will be worthwhile. PGCD makes recommendations to the superintendent, who can, of course, accept or reject these recommendations. So a big one that generated a lot of buzz, had been working on it for a few years, the high school grading subcommittee. They finished their work last year. They had been charged with reviewing grading practices at Schreiber. We had an update that included 2 special curriculum committee meetings, one with I think there were about 3,000 people here, right? I mean, it was a big turnout, the biggest one we had.
We sold
Very
tickets.
excited. Could have made a lot of money selling tickets. That would have been a budget thing. So committee made recommendations, and the implementation of that has already begun. This flyer went out to Schreiber folks talking about how that's being phased in. We had an instrumental music one that was completed last year, which really reviewed the current state of the music program and recommended a consistent scope and sequence. And we had best practices for instrumental music education. That work was done last year, and we're excited that that's in place this year. The PEP subcommittee also finished some work last year. This subcommittee reviewed the identification criteria for the PEP program. There were 2 recommendations made, modifying the matrix for grades 3 through 6 and administer the NGAT, which is our screener, to all 3rd grade students. In the past, that was only given to certain students who fulfilled other criteria. The NGAT is essentially that's replacing the IQ testing, and in the past, only students who had met certain other criteria would have a IQ score, if you will, to look at the criteria. Now we administer this test to all 3rd graders, so they all have it. You shouldn't have to meet criteria in other domains in order to get this criterion. So those recommendations are in place. The PEP website's updated with the details. Ongoing work, elementary literacy, all the stuff I talked about earlier, right? This is a committee, once again, that started, and this is where there's a push and a pull, right? So initially, when this committee was formed, it was only a K2 committee. And, certainly Dr. Varcella, myself, we worked with PGCD and said, no, this can't just be K2, it has to be K5. And it was switched last year to K5. And that was part of, the delay. Initially, we thought we'd have a K2 recommendation out and ready for implementation. But since it was switched, it changed it a little bit. We did get our K2 consistency within each school for the phonics phonemic awareness program, but for an overall program that addresses all of those 6 pillars, we're entering year 2 right now. We're in year 2, where we're going to select programs to pilot next year, and then choose next year for the program that will be in place the following 27-28 school year, right? Yes. Executive functioning. So that was a new committee last year that met, and it did present some recommendations in June, but the committee has recommended that it go back, clean up a few things. It will re-present, and that will be a finished recommendation either in September or certainly maybe by October's meeting to implement and make sure that these critical skills, these critical executive functioning skills, are addressed in a systematic and manner that exposes all kids and makes sure that all of the students are getting sort of the same experience and not just some of them. Teachers are actually very excited about this. I know that there was already some summer curriculum work on this for Weber. The teachers know work on this benefits them. You know, if you're a high school teacher, if they get executive functioning squared away in the middle school and they have that training, it helps you. If you're a middle school teacher and it's brought to light in the elementary, whatever work we can do, it helps you. So we do expect that to get finalized this year, within a few months. So there were two committees I discussed last year that we were not able to actually get in place. The work of these PGCD committees, it's intense, and the meetings, the stuff is all on teachers' time. They're not doing it typically in the middle of the day. It's on their time, typically after school. And we had a lot put on teachers last year, especially with the shift in the mathematics curriculum. So we had talked about getting a research subcommittee in place, and we just couldn't find people who had the time to invest in the serious work of that committee. So we're going to put another call out. Things are better this year. We've got a lot of work going on, but it's different. We're not adopting a new mathematics program with that intensive training. So we will look to get a research committee. I think 2 years ago, I did a presentation on research, the importance of research, K-12, making sure all of our students have a consistent exposure at the early grades, and opening up research at the high school level. Right now, we have a wonderful research program. It's an incredible research program, but sum and substance, it's effectively a high-end state level travel soccer team. But it is, right? And not everyone, has that level of soccer skill, if you will. Not everyone has that desire to commit that much. If you're going to play travel soccer, you're committing a lot of time. But, soccer is still important, and there's some people that just like club soccer or just hanging out with their friends. Research is important, and we have to make sure that we are providing students. They will be doing research in college, and especially now in the day of with AI, where you can write a research paper with a few inputs. We absolutely have to help students understand the importance of research, what it is. So opening up other avenues, not destroying the travel team we have right now, if you will, but getting some club teams together. I think that's sort of our goal, to open it up at the high school level. This was also a committee. It is a cumbersome name to basically a way of right now, we are providing a lot of different opportunities, whether it's Holocaust education, kindness, whatever it is. We have it here, we have it there. Where is it? We visit the Holocaust Museum. We have 3G survivors coming in, 3G families coming in one school. Do we have them in all schools? So we want to make sure that for everything related to not just Holocaust education, which, we're meeting the standards. It's a New York State standard. We have some requirements to do that. But beyond that, seeing the common themes, whether it's slavery, genocide, citizenship, human rights, do we provide consistent experiences across all of our elementary schools? Because that's always the challenge, right? So if we bring it to the 6th grade, well, we know that all of our 6th graders will get it because just one grade, one school. But making sure that K-12, there's coherence behind what we're doing. There's a process that is gradual, that builds off of the previous years. We don't want this stuff to be one-offs, but we want it to be part of a comprehensive program. And that's the purpose of this committee. This is the work of our office, right? This is what we want. We want our students to thrive academically. We want them to have a sense of belonging. We want to build consistency, literacy, mathematics, our E&L instruction. We want to strengthen our teacher collaboration, our professional development, and we want to use data to guide our instructional decisions. And it's data come in a lot of different forms. Certainly what we get from iReady, what we get from New York State, what we get from, teacher-created exams, assessments, what we get from surveys. Let's use all of that to make sure we're guiding our instructional decisions to see where we are. And that's really our year ahead. That's what we're looking at.
Thank you very much. We tend to do this every September meeting, and I think it's helpful to think about where we're headed each year. So thank you very much for that. We'll turn it over to Rachel and Sandra for questions.
You can go. Thank you for all of this. It honestly feels a little bit like one of those package inserts on a medication. There's so much information here that it's hard to look at the details of it.
There's no warnings of death here, though. So it's just,
No hidden warnings. A lot of this is really fantastic. I have a couple specific questions. I did want to first start by saying I really like how you're couching this into one overall goal, because it seems to me, students thriving academically and feeling a sense of belonging is like the big picture, and the details are very, very important, and there are tons of them, but the rest of them are details on building towards that goal. And I think, obviously the sub-goals of consistency and making sure everybody's getting the same experience and that we know what that experience is, are great. I have a couple questions. On the restorative practices.
yes.
What's the reception like to that? Because restorative practices strike me as one of those categories of things that you have to get buy-in, and that an older mentality on it thinks that it's a little like kumbaya, with a drum circle. And I should clarify, I really think it's not.
Right.
I think it's real meat of how do you build community, and also how do you have the discipline you sometimes have to do be a constructive, appropriate for an educational setting kind of discipline. But what's the reception like that on that? Are you having to work to get buy-in from everybody?
So absolutely, I think what you described, I'm not saying that's your perception, but yeah, a lot of the view out there is restorative practices. Somebody does something horrible, and you pat them on the back, give them a lollipop, and that's not what restorative practices are. We had a great presentation to this committee last year where we did a restorative circle, and we talked about the community building aspect. So one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure it's this delicate balance. You can't shove this on people, right? We wanted everyone to experience it. And by having every teacher have 2 restorative circles led by their colleagues as facilitators, that went a long way to changing some minds and some perceptions. I know I spoke to people who had one view heading in back in October to what restorative practices were, and another one, and then a different view coming out. Oh wow, this is powerful. It's kind of like what I try to do anyhow, but I guess it's just more formal. And there are other people that said, it's not for me. I'm not comfortable doing it. That's okay. So I think overall we've had a very positive reception to it. The fact that we had 72 people sign up for training last year on their own, not being forced, taking time, I think that speaks to the hunger. This connects very nicely with Ruler. I've talked about that. We can be a Ruler school at the elementary level, a Ruler district. restorative practices at the secondary. Our ruler teachers see a lot of the common things, and we've had a lot of them trained as restorative practice facilitators. So, we don't have 100% buy-in. We don't have 100% buy-in on anything. But I think I've been pleased by the overall reception. I know Dr. Bear would say the same thing, especially it's high school love high school teachers, but they tend to be a little more cynical towards this. But they've been really good reception up there.
Can I just ask a quick, sorry, are the committee topics, just as I get my questions prepped, but are the committee topics for the year public? Is this posted somewhere? Are we discussing?
The
committee
year
topics?
ahead, what we put in the
The topics that I'm looking at.
They will all be on the calendar, even if they haven't been updated yet. So like, I think if the question is, can you talk about those topics?
The topics should be public, yes, they typically
Yes, they
are.
should
I
Oh,
don't
I'm
know
gonna
if
have
they
questions
are.
on them, so I just wanted to know, like, does anyone else know about them yet? No, right? It's not posted anywhere yet.
It hasn't been posted
Okay.
yet, but it can be public information. It's not like exactly.
I mean, we could, I feel like we should
You
just
haven't
say
seen
them
them?
quickly. It's not posted
I don't know
anywhere.
if she was asking about PGCD or curriculum.
The curriculum committee.
Total curriculum topics for the whole year that are already
For this
established
committee.
for every date. I just didn't know if that was posted. I know you asked him, like, for the sheet, but I didn't know if that was, like, somewhere. Physically.
They'll be on the calendar.
Okay.
If they haven't been updated, they will be probably.
And we usually add them to
The BOE.
one of the earliest BOE
Yeah,
meetings
okay.
to
Probably
share
Tuesday.
publicly in a meeting as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a long answer to your question.
I like long answers. So that makes sense to me, and the thing that I'm thinking while you talk is I had a conversation with one of the ruler teachers who is like an early ruler teacher and then a trainer and very entrenched in it, and she had said to me that one of the sometimes like one of the hurdles is the teachers think they don't have time for something else, right? And she was saying you don't need any extra time for it though. Like once you're trained on it and it's part of everything, it's a mindset and a structure change and it's in the background and it's part of things. It's not that you need more hours to focus on ruler instead of math. It's that it's just your framework.
Okay.
And the restorative practice to me seems similar. It's a mindset shift.
And it saves you time because especially to manage your class, then all that time you would spend disciplining, if you will, it kind of goes away once you learn and work with your class, so.
Well, and fosters a more positive relationship,
Correct,
right? Which I also think is important.
yes.
I'm gonna anecdotally sum it up. At some point, when one of my kids was in first grade, she hadn't finished her homework, and her older sister said to her, "Well, is your teacher nice or is she not nice? And you're gonna be in trouble." And my then, like 6 or 7 year old, I think she was 6, said, "My teacher's very nice, but she has expectations of me." And I was like, well, perfect, right? That seems like the right balance. Like, I'm not scared, but like, I feel like I need to live up to the expectations. Like, if only we could set that as every interaction that any kid has with any adult, right? All right, thank you on that one. PEP subcommittee, I'm just unclear on this, if this is a change in the matrix. It sounds like there's some changes since the last time we as a committee saw it. Is the student evaluation scale still on it?
It's still on it, but there's a shifting of the matrix, yes, so it's in terms of how you are going to acquire different points within the categories, but yes, the SES, right, is still there.
Is it the same SES, and is the committee going to look at the SES, or did they already look at the
Yeah,
SES?
this SES has not changed.
Okay. Do you know if they will be looking at it?
There's not a charge for them to look at it. If I recall, there may be a de-emphasis on the SES, but it's
Okay.
not the make or break that I think it's been in the past.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I mean, the underlying thought on my end is that it feels to me like the SES, it's great if they're de-emphasizing it, but it feels inconsistent with the rest of what we're trying to do here. Because if it's the same SES, it has expectations that a child who would qualify for this program is a certain kind of traditionally, academically achieving, well-behaved, not twice exceptional student, is my understanding from having seen it. And I think the rest of this sort of moves away from that. And I think our mindset as a district has moved away from thinking that PEP kids are the best behaved kids who always consistently perform. And we now have a more robust understanding that a kid can be very bright, can need this program, can be appropriate for this program, but cannot be consistent because they've got other stuff going on. So I would, obviously, I can't charge anybody with anything on my own, but I would just have thought in the hopper.
Thank you.
And I guess my last comment, and then I'll let Sandra jump in too, is research. I love your analogy, and I hope that this committee comes together, because I think that sometimes when we talk about programs we have, the people who have seen their children benefit from the program or have children in the program get worried, right? That we're talking about dismantling, and I think your analogy makes it very clear that what we're talking about is making sure that other children who are capable of some of this are given the opportunity,
Right.
even if they don't want to become travel soccer team level at it, which makes perfect sense to me, because at this point it's kind of binary. You're willing to commit this
Okay.
huge amount of effort and you really have to be passionate about it to want to do it, or you're not doing
Right.
it. And I think you're right that like research skills are really, really important going into college and sort of going into the future as well.
And when, were you at the research presentation, right? And you align sort of the research skills
Yes.
with our portrait of a graduate. It's like a one-to-one correlation. So yeah, the research skills are critical, and we need to make sure all of our students are getting that. And they're not
Absolutely, that makes sense.
on a consistent basis.
I'm also very heartened to see that executive functioning is in process too. I think we've had parents clamoring for it, but more important, I think we've had students clamoring for it and saying that they need a little bit of help,
Almost at the finish line. Very
which
exciting.
is great. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you. So I apologize to anyone that has no clue what I'm talking about, but I am gonna ask about the topics for the year. So the 3 to 8 iReady data is one of the first topics that is listed for discussion. Just one of my questions would be, at some point, is there gonna be a pre-K to second review? Because that's specified 3 to 8. So,
It shouldn't. It is going to be, what we're going to do next meeting, we're going to do a deep dive into that elementary level data, which includes the 3 through 8 test, but also our iReady test, right, which is given K through 8. So
the iReady would be the K through
correct,
second.
right. So the committee will do a deep dive, and then that's on a Friday, and then at the Tuesday board meeting, we'll have Reader's Digest version of the presentation.
Okay. And then just something I had mentioned when it was like briefly discussed with literacy last year, and I think something that like you naturally, I mean, you gave it in your update, just being more data oriented and just presenting more of the information. The only thing that I keep hearing about with the iReady is that because it was the full year, like the first full year, there's not a lot of comparison that we're gonna be given. So I'm just wondering, can you give some sort of comparisons? So I know that like you're gonna give us the information, you're gonna show, I'm gonna assume, you're gonna give us data from last year, and you're gonna show us the progress of students maybe from fall to June, as that's how teachers are looking at it, that's how parents are looking at it. But as a board, just, I'm wondering if you can show us something with annual comparisons of just, so that's part one, of just something annually, potentially, and if it's not possible because it's hard to convert it, but if there's a really clever way to convert it somehow, to show us so that we can kind of grasp how we are doing, even though we changed the program we're using. And then when we're looking at it, something that I struggle with is just what are we comparing it to, right? So if we could do an annual comparison is great, just so we know how's Port Washington doing within Port Washington annually and the students within each other. But then are we talking about like, are you gonna show us state level? Are you gonna show us Long Island? Are you gonna show us, whatever groups that we typically like to associate with? This is just for me for curriculum where I'm just always what do I compare it to? And again, I know some of us don't like use that word compare to, but it's just really to understand how are we doing. So that kind of goes with the same with the data and the high school data of just because high school data is the second topic. It's just really, graduation rates.
Can I just?
Yeah, pause, sorry, I got.
I appreciate that you actually think I have the mental capacity to keep all those questions in my head and respond. But
It's on you.
I'm just gonna have to go back and watch, what did she ask me in real time? Anyhow, let me cover the elementary part, right? So, no, we don't have, last year's data was within the year, right?
Yeah.
We were able to show growth from our fall to our winter. We could show growth from winter to spring, and of course, fall to spring, and you will see that. The window for this year's fall testing closes the first week of October. That's when we pick up our final kindergartners, which is about the time we'll be doing the presentation. So we won't have a year-to-year for everyone. We will later on this year, right? But just not for this first presentation. Within the data, we have an understanding of, it's normed, right, nationwide. This is one of the most
That's what I remember from
one of the most used screeners in the country. And we can compare our results nationally and within New York State. We can't drill down and say, can you compare it to the North Shore of Long Island?
No,
We
and
can't, I'm just saying.
It's more, what is the philosophy that this district is going by? Like, if you're telling me that's what we're gonna look at, state norms, the required amount, then that's fine. It's just more of, in that presentation, can that just be stated? So I
Yes.
know that that's just
You-
like where we're going with when we look at.
You will see that when we look at the K-8 iReady data. Yes, so.
So I know you said we can't compare, but if there's some sort of way to still have the information somewhat, so
Yeah, no, after, we have to get through our testing window, though. It's still open.
from like 2023 school year, 2024
Oh,
school
you
year.
mean previous with NWEA?
Yeah, just, I'm not telling you to present that, I'm not telling you to present that, but right, if our pass rate, right, so last year's presentation in literacy, the 3 to 8 pass rate, you showed us some sort of pass rate based on that was state testing, but.
Correct.
So if there's something that that we're not just, pinch and hold into the 1 year comparison, I understand, because what's gonna happen is we're finalizing the literacy program, right? So now we will only be stuck at that year's literacy program when it's implemented and we won't review anything else. I just feel like there must be a way that you can just tell us,
Just compare the 3 to 8.
NWAE did.
The NWEA, so there is a crosswalk to try to compare it. I'm not sure, and we don't think it's all that effective, and even they don't. So trying to, compare what's better, this delicious watermelon or this grapefruit, I mean, they're really two different products. They both measure and they try to measure standards, but when you try to go across, it's different. It's easier, within. They do have a crosswalk, but it's just not effective. That's just, both, they all say that. So we will get to the point, though, where we can continue to look at, this year's iReady, just as we have 3 through 8. But I will say, the 3 through 8 tests aren't, I've got 15 years of 3 through 8 data, right? But you really can't compare, because the tests have shifted, the amount of time they've given, but even the state has said, what did we just finish? The 24, 25, 23, 24, 22, 23. Those 3 years you can pretty much compare.
I'm not going beyond 3.
But you
3 to 2.
can't go back because they did some shifting, right?
So I think what
So the
she's
answer
saying
is
is, can we,
The diagnostics, I already renormed
Yes.
last year, and I was just checking.
NWA is gonna renorm this
And-
year.
Right, so they wouldn't even want you to go back
This is a
with
good
their
point.
own diagnostics.
Yeah, so we actually started with iReady the year they renormed, which is good, because now, you know, they're not gonna renorm for a while again. And yeah, that's a good point, I forgot NWEA, they're renorming this year.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So if we wanted to, with the iReady data, we can look at skills, and Juanita, we can look at skills, right? You can look at in terms of vocabulary.
Domains, yeah.
Yeah, the domains is a better word. Was there comparable data for NWEA when you looked at it through domain? That might get to the heart of Sandra's question. In other words, we can't compare iReady to NWEA, but can we compare how our students,
What
areas
level
of strength?
proficiency did they have?
Yeah, areas of strength in the NWEA, areas of, you know, areas that might dictate or might showcase some instructional vulnerabilities. Have those shifted over the, is there a way to track those?
Prior to our adoption last year. I can look into.
Something to look at, perhaps.
I don't need an answer today. This is October 30th.
I'm already logging in, don't worry.
But it's a good question, Sandra,
Yeah,
because I think we have to come up, you know, certainly when we're looking at secondary school, secondary level, high school data, we can come up with a comparable schools group, right? Do we have something similar at our disposal for 3 through 8 data?
Yep.
I'm not sure that that's so, that for state testing certainly, but in terms of looking at it through skill level, that would be an interesting question to ask.
And just on the next step of that, and it wouldn't be this year, but, you know, the district as a whole has invested heavily in our class ratio. So, you know, at the elementary age, so at what point is that reviewed and how do we review it, right? Did that affect anything, right? And for me, if we can't compare annually, it's kind of hard to decide budget, you know?
But to that point though, however, when you're at, it's not very scientific, I'm forever told I have to be much more scientific. You can't make 3 changes and then say,
Yes.
oh, now we know, because we don't
Yes.
know. Okay.
Too many variables.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So the high school data presentation would be afterward. So my only question with that is, so we have a limited year, right? We've discussed topics before and just looking even at past topics of just, so for us, you know, I heard heavily E&L today, but it's not gonna be one of the topics covered this year. And it's last presented in 23-24. SEL, last presented in 23-24. PEP, last presented in 22-23, which enrichment and acceleration is listed for this year. So I'm trying to understand, you know, moving forward as we discuss the topics and pick the topics, is it like every other year? Are there some as a full committee that we want annually? You know, so data, I mean, I hope you know, the first 2 topics are an annual. It's not every 2 years, but some of them seem to be like, if we don't do E&L this year, then it's 3 years out. Climate survey is listed for this year. Is that gonna cover SEL? If it is, then we're within like 2 years of reviewing it, not 3 years out for next year. So I know we discussed the topics and I saw this sheet, but it's our first meeting to like really discuss it together. So I just wanted to see, you know, with our schedule we picked, within the ones that we already picked, so high school data, would research be brought up in that one? Or is that gonna be an acceleration? Or is research not talk this year?
No, I think what this says is that they're trying to form a research PGCD subcommittee. And so I would imagine
Not discussed yet because
they'll
there's no
discuss
committee.
it over the course of the year,
Yep.
right? And then at some point it'll come back to us. And I see Dr. Bear nodding in the background.
So the only reason I ask is because acceleration and enrichment is such a broad topic for me because it goes through all the age groups. So I just wondered for like moving forward, could have that been within the high school? Could the high school one have its own, like when you do the presentations, why not during high school just focus on that? Or secondary level programming is the other one.
Because
You really,
Acceleration and enrichment is a K-12 topic, so it's much broader than any of the individual topics. And it's been a topic that has been pushed off of this agenda for 3 years.
oh, yeah, PEP was not, I mean, the only one I can find was PEP. Like, I definitely think it's 100% needed. I'm just wondering flow of the conversation. For me, for that topic specifically, last year's, I love the literacy updates. A lot of it was informative. A lot of it was informative last year for the literacy topic update. And it was a lot of back history and information for the greater community and maybe us as trustees to understand what it was. But I wonder if can more of it just be more data focused of just what, not so much the what it is, but more of like, what are the results? What's the next steps?
The literacy presentation included both,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yes.
Heavy, it was heavy on
It
information.
was heavy on setting the table. We had to understand, and big part of the goal of that presentation was, hey, let's have a common language and a common understanding of what we're doing and why we are doing it. You know, there's really, we're not just, you know, throwing things at the wall here. We're trying to help everyone understand where we are, where we're going, why we're going there, and what rules it. And then, yeah, the data presentation aspect of that was somewhat sober in terms of where we are, and I think pointed to the importance of the work in literacy. So we have a literacy update scheduled to talk about the work and produce, hey, here's where we are, here's how things are improving, getting better, here's how these things went.
Thank you.
Because it's important work.
Can I add something? I think, to my mind, and I think this is where the administration is too, the reason to do acceleration and enrichment as its own standalone topic is because, as Nan said, it is K-12.
Yeah.
And I think our district has not looked at it as K-12 in a cohesive way.
Mhm.
And that piece is really important and impacts who you're serving with it, how they're getting into the programs, where the on-ramps are, what the gates look like, and that has an impact on like what subgroups we're hitting,
Yeah.
and that has an impact on our portrait of
Access.
graduate
Mhm.
and, you know, graduation pathways afterwards. So I think you're right? There's stuff to be talked about at each level, but I think that we're trying this year to make sure that we're looking at the big picture of it, because if you don't get on the bus at Weber, you can't get off at certain stops at the high school.
Yeah.
You know?
I definitely think it's like, even looking at the it is 100% needed. I'm trying to understand the whole topics and what that will look like for the other topics. So secondary level programming, I'm gonna assume won't list anything with acceleration and enrichment, because that will be covered at the next meeting, right? Does that kind of make sense? Or will it be an overflow? It will overlap a little bit.
Overlap,
Okay.
what's, yeah.
So climate survey is one of the other topics. Will that be just a review? Is the anticipation like a review of the surveys? Is it gonna be tied into SEL at all? Or is that unrelated in the sense of this presentation?
Well, it's most definitely related. of
I know
course,
it's
right?
related. I didn't know that where we were going with the
So the
presentation.
goal is, and we haven't really done this, we've presented the results of the climate survey to the community, but haven't really done a deep dive in this committee. And it's an important part of the work we do as a district. And the hope would be to connect it, especially those comments that often become important nuggets for those open-ended comments, what the kids provide. See what pattern we might have there so we can address it possibly in the budgetary process if needed. And yeah, connected to what are we, do we need to change, alter, refocus our SEL programs?
Two last questions, I promise. For college admissions overview, and then maybe this is a bigger full board discussion, but college admissions overview has been on curriculum committee's topics every year for the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm wondering, I understand it's important, I would like an update on it as well, but I'm wondering, since we are limited in how many meetings we have, if that should just be a full board discussion, if it is so crucial that we discuss it every year in curriculum versus like the other topics we don't cover every year, and instead of it having a specific placeholder in curriculum, maybe that just be like a full board meeting, I'm not sure. You know, it's just interesting that that one got on every year in the last 3-4 years.
Actually, last year it was not going to be on. It was supposed to be shifted to an evening, and then the agenda became so packed in that meeting that we shifted it back into here. So I think it's a worthy conversation, and the other thing I wanted to point out was that part of why we hadn't put this out yet was because there's still, you know, Dr. Posse has some suggestions about how we potentially modify this. So all of, I think it's a valid point to make and something to consider, so I don't disagree.
I think the counter on that, and I think we can still
deeper
totally
dive.
discuss, is we can do a deeper dive
Yeah.
here, and we have a brand new director of
Yes,
guidance.
yes.
And it's a serious area that impacts every single student.
Yeah.
Right?
100%, and that's why I thought maybe it's important, maybe that was the goal last year, is that it should be something full board, because more people, there's a lot of people here today, but it's just more community can maybe be part of that as well.
Well, these are always available
Yeah, of
to the
course,
community,
yes.
whether they're in the room or not. Yes.
Special education would be my only other question, so I did bring that up as something just as a review, you know, in some capacity for curriculum. You know, in the mock potential draft of topics, I didn't see it, but,
So it was not listed as a subject, but you had asked in our discussions about it for the high school.
I was
And
gonna
that
say,
is
so that's my dot, dot, dot,
the
is
high
it
school.
within?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be my only question. Again, just so it's not duplicative, last year had a PPS update, but again, it was very informative. It was very information-based of like, this is what we have, this is what we offer, or this is what's happening and why we would like another administrator. But I didn't see, you know, data to tell me how our students are doing within that program.
I didn't see that. That was
There was,
not a
I went through
committee.
all of our board presentations and I found
Oh.
it, that might have been,
That wasn't in
that might
this
have been a
committee.
full, actually,
Yes,
that might have been a
that was a
full,
board.
again, informative, not specific with data.
Well, I think that was a presentation of the report, the audit, right?
That might have been
That
an
was a couple
update.
years ago, yeah.
I think the audit was like the spring before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but then we had an update, so I think it was probably the update right after the audit.
In any
I have
case.
one tiny more question. And I don't know if maybe it's covered in literacy, and if at all something gets presented at some point with ENL or special education, but you brought it up in this presentation about the push-in model that it's getting more towards. So I hear a lot about the push-in model and the change of that. It's first I'm hearing more about it with ENL. I've heard a lot about it last year with special education. So I keep hearing about it and the benefits, but I don't see proof of benefits. So my only question is, if there's an ENL presentation, if there's something with special education, how do we know? So how do we, and I don't mean to sound cynical with this, but I have heard potentially that some of this push-in is not necessarily, there's like a dual benefit. Maybe it is efficient, but it's also a budgetary savings a little bit with one single teacher can now see more students at a time in a full classroom versus pulling out 2, 3 at a time. Again, I could be incorrect in that statement, but I just want to know the efficiency. I keep hearing about the benefit, but I don't see anything shown that like, this year we did push in, this was the results of their ENL, you know, testing versus last year when we didn't do push in. So,
Okay.
I don't think we had the push-in to have data, is that true?
We had a small amount of push-in being tested at some schools. Some of
So
the
it was
elementary
piloted,
ones.
it was not,
informally, because teachers were interested in it. To your point, yeah, can you serve more kids? Yes. More importantly, you can keep kids in the mainstream classroom, and the research points over and over again that the time in that mainstream classroom is beneficial. So if you can get served, you can get your services, but still remain with your class. That's beneficial on a lot of different levels, academic, social, emotional. I've been in classrooms where you've had, you had the classroom teacher, you had an ENL person doing push-in services, and a special ed person. I didn't know which teacher was which, right? So it is, there's a lot of benefits to kids as well, and that's what research points to. If we want to discuss specifically the research, yeah, we can certainly share that.
I think there's a lot of variables with that research, right? Is what students getting how many pullouts?
Mhm.
You know, is it a ENL student with special education services? That's a lot of pullouts, right? But if it's just a student that's ENL with one pullout versus now we are doing more of a push-in model, did we lose that benefit for that student who didn't have so many pullouts potentially?
And there are some ENL students that require pullout, right? So it's not all the ENL students will be getting push-in services, right? So if you're at the basic levels, you're getting pulled out still. But if you're close, if you're at a higher level, yeah, you can get your push-in services, you can get that support. It's the push-in doesn't mean there's no more pull-out. But it just means there are some kids that really don't need to be pulled out, and they lose more than they gain from the pullout.
Thank you.
Okay, I have questions, but I will pass on them because we have quite a number of community members here, and I hope that they have a chance to speak as well. So if anyone has questions, please go ahead.
With regard to the Tier 2 interventions for RTI, when it comes to the element of research-based supplemental instruction, who chooses what instruction? Is that the committee decision? Is that a personal teacher decision?
Which intervention is used
Yes,
for the Tier 2?
the one that's happening in the classroom.
Right, I mean, that's part of the resources that are provided certainly within our iReady program, right? A big part of that Tier 2 will be how do you group kids, and depending on how students are doing, and this is the nice thing about both the screener and the connection to the curriculum, it actually advises, hey, you should group these kids together. They've got this common, they're struggling, the same way here. So it suggests how you should group kids and what sort of resources you should provide them.
So it's not an outside, like how reading recovery?
Not the Tier 2, yeah. The Tier 3 is typically a different resource.
Hi, Sue Reeser, parent of a 10th grader, 7th grader, and 4th grader. Want to thank you and I've got all different parts of the system. Wanted to thank you for the updates on the strategy and all the work that has been done by the curriculum committee. My question or comments are specific to the grading policy changes that were just rolled out and announced at the start of the school year. Many of the changes I think are clear improvements. They bring greater consistency and fairness to the way grades are reported. They align more closely with what colleges are looking for. Specifically, addition of unweighted GPAs, equally weighted quarters, and simplification of grading codes. That said, I do want to raise my strong concern about the change in weighting for AP and honors courses. My main question is what is truly driving this recommendation to reduce or alter the AP and honors weighting? Those courses are not just about GPA. They're a phenomenal opportunity for our students to challenge themselves academically, to demonstrate their rigor to colleges, and perhaps most importantly, to enter college with credits that can save families thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And weakening their weight potentially risks sending the wrong message about their value. Another issue that I'd like to raise is timing and implementation, and that's something we discussed probably maybe in May when this was a standing room only discussion. Basically, changing the weight for a system for current high schoolers, not necessarily those coming up from middle school, is in effect changing the rules of the game midway through high school. And students have already made choices about their course loads under the assumption that AP and honors classes are weighted a specific amount. And to change that now could have unintended consequences on transcripts and by extension on college admissions, where even small GPA differences do matter. And while I understand we have been told that the system is not able to handle those adjustments in its current form by having different weighting across different graduation years, I'd like to challenge our curriculum committee, administration, and our new system to see if there are creative solutions to address that. Before implementing this change, to understand, is it the technical implementation and limitations that's driving that decision, or like the true reason for it? We really can't know yet how this is gonna play out in the admission process for our current high schoolers. And I believe a fair and responsible path is to phase this change with the future class. For example, a class of 2031, which my daughter's a part of. So I think that, they'd be entering high school under the same clear defined rules. It would be a transition for the younger classes. And is something that it would be great to understand. Again, I want to acknowledge and commend the positive changes in those updates, but on that particular issue, I believe we need clarity on the true rationale and a slower rollout to ensure fairness, protect opportunity, and maintain confidence in our grading system. Thank you. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, I know there is. People really think I have that kind of capacity. I'm impressed, so I don't. A couple comments. The benefits of an AP course that you talked about, nobody's taking that away, right? The college credit, the chance to showcase on your college application, look at, I can take this AP course, I'm used to that. None of that goes away, no matter what the weighting of that course is. And I think I mentioned this last time. I actually, my previous district, we didn't weigh any of those courses. The belief was all of our courses needed to challenge the students. So whether you're taking AP US History or Regents US History, you should be challenged in that course appropriately. And that's a big part of the work that we're trying to do, that Dr. Baer and her department chairs are trying to do with her APs, is make sure there's a consistency and high expectations for all kids at all levels. As I'm sure you know, and this was discussed, at the end of the day, there's different weightings at all of these schools. And colleges basically unravel that weighting anyhow. That doesn't take away that you've got AP this or AP that on your transcript. That is important. Nobody's gonna sit here and say, challenging yourself in an AP, no, you shouldn't even bother doing it because since they're not weighted or they don't have as much weighting. The weighting goes into, the change in the weighting goes in place next year. Nobody has selected their classes for next year, right? So nobody has made decisions for next year yet. We still a few months away for that.
Can I just add two
Yeah.
things, if you don't mind? So a lot of these questions have come to our attention over the last. I know they've been spoken about for several months, but within the last few weeks, I've really heard a lot of these questions. Well, I can't speak to the rationale for changing the amount of weighting that the course that a course had, but what I can do is give some clarity to some of the information that I found out. So two things that might be useful for parents to know. One is that weighting is applied only in the cumulative GPA. So in other words, nowhere on the transcript does it show that your course, AP US History, your course grade is shown as, let's say, an A. That course grade, there's not another column on the transcript that says what the weighting is for that course. The weighting is only applied cumulatively at the end of the transcript. So in other words, what you'll see on our high school transcripts is you'll see a cumulative GPA, weighted, cumulative GPA, unweighted. You don't see it course by course. You don't see it year by year. So you only see You only see it at the conclusion. So that's one thing that I think is just helpful to know.
Which means you're not going to see a drop in 10th grade, here is your GPA,
That's right.
and then in 11th grade, you really dropped.
And you're also not going to see a change, you're also not going to see it course by course, which I think also is just important to conceptualize. The second piece, in terms of the college admissions process, we know that the two most important things are the strength of a child's academic program and the grades that they're receiving in those courses, right? Those are two critical components of the college admissions process. So students should still be looking to challenge themselves as much as they possibly can. We also know from college admissions counselors that in most cases, they strip the weighting. For us, since we don't show it course by course or year by year, really it's the final course grade that matters more. So I just hope that clarification is
Dr.
helpful.
Vera wanted another clarification.
Yeah, so some of the feedback I've also heard is the concern about next year's seniors during the college application process. So as Dr. Posse had stated, it's only at the end of the year. We do not do an ongoing, a running GPA. So when students who are juniors currently apply as seniors next year for colleges, they are using their end of junior year GPA when they are reporting that. So that includes the current weighting, which is 1.0 for honors and AP courses. So if there's concern that their senior year it's suddenly different, that GPA will not be recalculated until the end of their senior year, which means you're talking about the first week of July when those transcripts are getting prepared to go to colleges. They've already been accepted, they've already committed to going to places. So if that is part of the concern, it will be the end of this year as far as the courses they've selected currently, and then moving forward, they won't be selecting next year's courses until the end of semester one.
What about sophomores? So, I mean.
And all of this would be reflected in our college profile. We certainly are not the only high school who has changed how weighting systems work. This gets included in the profile, and as Dr. Posse said.
But even more importantly than that, you're not going to be able to clearly see that the weighting has changed because it doesn't come up until the cumulative
Right.
GPA
Here's my
at the
10th
end.
grade GPA, and
Does
then,
not
oh my
exist.
goodness, your 11th grade GPA really dropped because there's less weighting. You don't see that.
Right, like you wouldn't see that, let's say, for like my child, but across like Schreiber, let's say everyone who's graduating this year, even everyone who's gonna graduate next year, who's only gonna have the impact if you recalculate their GPA at the end of their senior year, they're all going to have like a weighted higher GPA. The unweighted, if you strip it, fine, all be the same.
The average grade, GPA, will decrease under the system
Yes.
because we lose some weighting. But we don't.
For everybody.
Yeah, but it's for everybody, so within, the apple cart, it's all the same.
Not if you took more APs as a 10th grader, not if you front loaded that, if you have more APs than,
Yeah.
than the
Like,
next person. So
potentially-
how are you gonna, for people that care about valedictorian and salutatorian, how are you now gonna calculate their GPAs?
If you've taken more, we're not decreasing the weighting for.
But I could take AP computer science in 10th grade this year and my GPA has a 1.0 bump. But Alexis can take it in AP computer science in her junior year and her GPA is only gonna reflect a 0.3 bump. And who's gonna be valedictorian if we both got an A+?
The valedictorian, those in
Or in
that.
general, or when I apply to college.
They're
and we both-
comparison.
And we both apply to
Right.
when we both apply to
Within the same
Harvard,
grade.
my GPA is gonna be higher than hers, I'm gonna be a better student.
Correct, those in the running, but those, congratulations.
Those in the running,
Those in the running are maxing out at every opportunity, because if she did not max out on her APs, she's not going to be in the running. She won't be.
There is, in the ether, there is a tendency having the APs weighing a little bit less. And I'm speaking of the culture, having been in buildings. Do the kids want to take they know they have to take a lot of APs, especially those who are interested in selective colleges. But there is, you know, when I look at this, I said, I wonder if this is the push to make students take more electives. Well, that's not really the right approach, I think. The right approach is selling the electives, like they do in many districts. But I don't know if that's true or not. But it does have an impact on the academic tone, because colleges, you're right, they do a lot of recalculations, but colleges know very well who are their feeder schools. Believe me, they know very well. They know the school A is coming from here, from this area. You'll get 26, 27 going to MIT. You look at this school, and you get maybe 0 to 1. And it's not because the students are at this school much better than the schools at this school, at this other school. It is the ether that lives within the building, the culture, the striving for excellence, for rigor, for academic distinction. And I think for all kids, and I don't care whether they're in special ed or not, or ESL or whatever, we should be striving to provide the utmost, greatest level of excellence and academic value. Because if I may say this, one of the problems we're having in this country is that when you look at who is succeeding academically across the nation in the different programs, you will see the demographics are quite telling. What is happening to this country? Why is it that so many kids who are good students, because I will tell you, Schreiber has a lot of excellent students, very, very, very good students. Why is it that we are not producing at the level, probably I shouldn't mention names here because people get upset, but at the level of our colleagues? Why? It's not because the students are worse, absolutely, I don't believe that. I've seen them. I have talked to them. It's something else, and I'm not blaming anyone.
All right.
But I have my suspicions.
I would hope you've been to a lot of these presentations. I would hope you have a sense that things I communicate have typically been.
And you know that I have been to these presentations for more than 16 years, day in and day out, 7 to 8.
I know that. I've only been to, this is my 4th year of these presentations, right? So I hope the message you consistently hear from me is high expectations for all students and the work we need to do, we as professionals, to deliver that. You know, the students are our students. We have amazing students, and we have, you know, our top students, I think I'd put them against anyone. The problem is we've got to work on our system so we have more of those top students. We're leaving some kids behind because of our pathways to acceleration, not having multiple on-ramps, so on and so forth. This is all part of our work, our foundational work. I am secondary primarily, that's my background, right? 36, 37 years in this. I'm primarily secondary. My work has been at the elementary level here because that is critical to our district's success long after I'm gone and you forget who that tall guy was, right? So that's the message. I don't buy into, and I'm gonna pitch November's meeting. When you look at the Schreiber AP participation and the data, how our students, you know, you see that curve. I saw it in my previous district as well. The shifts you can make. We had, once again, no waiting for our APs. You had the same waiting whether you took AP history or Regents history, and kids going towards AP, steady increase. Passing rate, huge increase. That's happening at Schreiber right now. You're going to see that in November. And so if kids want to challenge themselves for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of college pressure, which is not healthy. that kids feel that they need to take 12 APs to show they're worthy. That's not true. Even the College Board has said that, and they've communicated that by getting rid of their national recognition for AP scholars, which was, I think, a dozen AP exams. They say, slow down, you don't need that many. You need some, but you don't need that many. So we don't want to overwhelm kids. I don't buy into the notion that the kids are going to see, oh, this is it's shifting, it's not weighting as much, so I'm not going to take it. They're going to take it.
All I just want to add, this is just an impression. In Port Washington, we should be celebrating every little success, big or small. Everything should be celebrated. It should be announced to the board. It should be announced to the superintendent so that he is aware. It should be celebrated at board meetings. I don't care if it is a tiny little success. Even those successes that are coming, not necessarily being born out of the building, but still the students are part of the school district, but coming from the outside in, because those students are pegged, married to the district.
Sure.
So whatever little success they have, it will shine great on Port Washington, whether it's winning gold keys in Scholastic and all these tremendous amounts of awards and competitions that are all over.
And I think
We
if you look
should
at
have
our
more students.
If you look at our district feed, the Instagram feed, I think more and more you are seeing that. Shannon's done a great job getting it out there, and the schools' concerted efforts to celebrate as well. But nobody's going to disagree with that.
Okay, I need to move
Yeah,
on
we're gonna
because
run out of time.
we are already late, and I think we need to also be focused on the actual agenda in front of us. It's helpful, but I do have a committee member that has another question.
It's not really a question, it's more a comment, and I'm gonna have to sneak out right after, but I just wanna note that, like, for those of us as sitting here as board members and also people who are in the room as parents, 5 years ago, 10 years ago here, these issues were completely opaque to the parent community and to the board. And we weren't looking at data the same way, we weren't using data effectively. We didn't have this amount of transparency and public conversation about it. And really, I think, respect for the parent community, right? Because I think when you present in this level of detail what the plans look like, it shows respect to the parent community as partners, and to all the stakeholders, right? As partners in sort of coming together to create the best education that we can for students. And I really can't even overstate how much I appreciate that, both as a board member and as a parent. And I think we get a little bit of like the side effect of that is that we all get greedy, right? We're all like, tell us more on that. Give us more data, give us more information. So I just want to make sure that thank you gets in there too, because I think that's the side effects. I'm saying thank you for all of us, but that's just because like Nan and I lived through the period of time where there was no information shared and every ball was hidden, even if there was literally no reason to be hiding the ball. And I appreciate that like the good, the bad, the ugly is talked about because there is a mindset change, and that's an understanding that in order to make the best school district, we have to have real, open, honest conversations about what we're doing great and what needs improvement, and have input from everybody, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's collaborative, and so I'm gonna move on to other questions, and I'm sorry we're running late. That's what we do at curriculum.
Always.
I just have questions about the PGCD. I think it would be great if there was more information available about who and what they do for just the general public. So, maybe if on the website, if you could have a list of the current PGCD committee members, the minutes for the meetings, I think would be helpful. I know that it says the contracts that the minutes should be posted in each building, but it's probably a
That's not a bad
dinosaur error kind of posting. So
Sure.
yeah, I just think like this is all like really interesting, and there's a lot of us
Sure.
who want to know as much as possible, and it would be great to have that
Thank you.
information.
That's a good idea.
comment.
It's a very good idea.
Can I just add to this question?
Yes, well, before, I just want to make sure everybody else had their opportunity before, okay.
Just very quickly to your PGCD. PGCD has something that I learned here when I came into the district last century. PGCD committee is nothing else, is in every school district. Every school district is encouraged by the state to have a collaboration between administrators, teachers, and parents. So asking teachers, how do you feel about this? Is perfect and is advisable because, you know, they are the ones that ultimately will implement the curriculum. So you want them to be on board, understand what is going on, but also understand what the board wants and the superintendent wants. And they have to be aware of that. But PGCD has become, since the Kumbaya district in this school district, Kumbaya? No, you're the
Oh, I know Kumbaya, I'm just.
Since the it's not me who made that term, it's someone else. It has been made into this mythical entity. It is not a mythical entity. I had discussions with the State Department. It's a regular advisory committee that is highly recommended, whether it's Port Washington, Hicksville, whether it is Great Neck, they all exist. The difference is between what is legal and what is norm. Obviously, in these times, a lot of norms have been dispensed with. Sometimes how you proceed in terms of what you need to do, it's like talking to your children. You try to I shouldn't say children, talking to your brother. You try to get cooperation, but after a while, you say, enough, this has to be done. I have read the contract very well. Not only that, but I have had advisement on what it is. I think we gaslight each other for so many years in this district. PGCD, what is it? It's nothing. It has, ultimately the superintendent, I just want to say, the superintendent has the final word.
With all due respect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I agree in terms of, I've never seen something quite like this, right? But this is not an obstacle. PGCD is not an obstacle to getting things done. It may cause the time frame to be lengthened, and I'm honest about that, but the payoff is the buy-in and the implementation. So it does not have to be, and I've heard, came here and I whispered to my ears, oh, PGCD, it's not like that at all. This is a group of people who take their work seriously, and you know, the work they do would be very challenging to be done in a serious way among the administrators, simply because it's a lot. It's a lot. So
I just want to say, Jess brought it up of possibly just having more information about it, because I think that there's also this stigma. I mean, you used a sense of how the teachers feel. That in my understanding, that's not necessarily what the committee does. It is vetting programs that they have to implement. They are the ones that are doing the implementation as well. So I also know the important work that they've done,
Right.
and that it's not a rush decision. There are other examples where decisions might have been rushed in prior years on something not curriculum based that didn't work out so well. So I think that like a vetting to an extent, and I know you said maybe it takes a little longer. I think the suggestion of maybe more information just helps that stigma of this kind of whatever other comments that you made.
I'm gonna hop on, hold on, please, all due respect. So you've been to a lot of these, you've seen sort of the work that we've done over the last 3-4 years. Has PGCD prevented us from doing work? That's the question I would ask. Has this I'll give you hundreds of pages of has PGCD prevented us from doing work? No. We are moving forward. We are partnering with the teachers, using PGCD as well. We're getting work done. So it has Does it make the process? Do you have to be thoughtful? And yeah, you do. That's fine. It is what it is. That's where we're working, okay? And I will respect that. But all the things we've done a lot of stuff. So PGCD is not causing this district, you can't do anything, not at all. We're moving forward, and we're gonna continue to move forward.
Yes.
Just a request, would be, you answered a bunch of things that I had about the grading policy. And whether I believe in 1.0 rating or 0.3 weighting, that doesn't matter, but I think the implementation is the most part, so like important part. And to not have positive, negative, or, you know, even impact on the kids, I'd really like to understand if like no rock has been left like unturned to make sure that this can't be phased in with a class that is not already in honors and AP classes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I don't know, this was shared out, I don't know if you saw this,
Yeah.
right? So do you think something like this that explains some of these points and addresses some of your issues would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I have a 7th grader and I
Q&A.
paid happy for
FAQ.
her to have a 0.3 rating because she hasn't taken anything yet.
Okay.
Right, like for the younger kids who haven't taken any classes, I feel like, sure.
So maybe, I know you read a statement, maybe if you just share us, I know I've got an incredible memory here, but I don't.
Yes, I'll be
But,
happy to
you know,
give
we
mine.
can use that as the basis for maybe an FAQ.
Just to add to that, I think what I'm hearing, part of the question is, why are you not doing a different phase-in? It's not just an FAQ to understand what you decided,
To also
But-
address the phasing,
yeah,
all of that.
just an
Absolutely.
FAQ to say
Yeah.
what she said.
Understood. I think
Why
that,
not?
that might not be a bad idea. I think it's a very good idea, in
I
fact.
think also just have we explored every avenue with Infinite Campus in terms of having different classrooms or different ways to minimize the impact on the classes that would, like our sophomores, it sounds like the juniors are less, but the freshmen and sophomores are gonna be more affected by this change.
Yep, we can address all of that. Okay, thank you.
Well, as usual, we're at the 2-hour mark, which we do so well every time.
We did squeeze in a fire drill this time, so that was new.
Thank you, everyone who attended. We look forward to the year. Our October meeting is October 3rd, and we will be discussing the elementary data.
If you could
So-
just sign the sign-in sheet on the way out, it just helps
Yep.
us a little bit.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.